Hi, Graham.
Hello,
Thank
Rich.
you for joining me in this interview series for the Birmingham event, sharing people's experience of the London event and giving people a taste of what they might experience or what they might expect from Birmingham. So I am just going to dive straight in by asking. I am going to ask, what made you go? Why did you turn up to the London event?
I think, and I'm going to be really brutally honest with this one, three things. The first thing, a friend and coach, Julie Brown, I think, I can't remember how it came out, but I got a text off her phone call saying, this is happening, we're going. And I went, okay. It was something along those lines, which normally what happens. It happened with Spark, it happened with a load of other stuff, and then it was, okay, I don't know who this person is. So then I got hold of the TBLIT NFL and listened to that. Got hold of the book, the Ultimate Coach, the Book of Being, and started listening to that. And I've got a couple of hard copies. What I think they're both out on out on loan at the moment, which I'll never see them again. Uh, so I had that in the audio, and I'm working through that, and I'm one of my I'm a dyslexic thinker, so reading just the book there is quite difficult. So I'm listening to it, so I'm getting more and more curious about it. But I'm getting more and more curious about the stories that people say about him. Still not curious about who this Steve Hardison was or anything along those lines. And then the old part of me came up, which is, oh, I wonder who I could meet. I wonder what connections I could make and all of that. And it felt, it was like, oh, what an awful thing to say. But so those three things were drawing us into it initially. But the more I listened to, the more I watched the TBO, LIT, NFL, and listened to the book, the more and more curious I got about, well, what is this being? I thought I was always being. I know I've changed dramatically from maybe not, my story about who I was and what I went through is changed to now the story that I tell about myself in regards to who I am now. From being a victim, from being someone who would not take responsibility, accountability, would pass the blame on to other people, would blame life, parents, siblings, bosses for every interaction, relationships, than being the person that is there to be, well, it's me. I'm fully accountable. I create the choices, make the choices in life. So it was a massive part of what was happening at that point in time. And I was also just about to shut down my business as a PT and move into what at that point in time was going to be full-time coaching. But I'd also done something quite dramatically, which was I'd shut down everything and I went back to working in the real world,
Yeah.
which I'd been afraid of because I felt like I was a failure for doing that at that point in time. So there was a lot of things happening, and I felt as if I needed something to maybe give us a little bit of direction. So
I love
that's it.
that.
Thing.
And before I pick up on that,
Yeah,
I just want to share and that like that's how we knew each other,
yeah,
like from the PT, and
yeah,
it was um and I wanted to thank you and Julie as well for the Friday night event that you arranged,
Yeah.
because that was a great way to meet people for like a bit longer, you know, than we got on the day. But also, like for me, that was one of the like massive excitements about going. The opportunity to see people that I felt I'd known forever, that we hadn't actually met in person, because all those sessions were online. Like
Yeah.
you were in my living room,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you weren't.
No, I mean, I've got to say that and it was Julie's idea getting everyone together in the was it the Columbia?
Yes.
Columbia? It
Yeah.
was, wasn't it? And there's people that I've spoke to and responded to on Facebook for years and years and years, you know, and a couple of people that I've been on events with and retreats with and so forth, you know, and you never get back in contact with them. And that event, that was just the start of it, but it was a real. We went into the room on the following day feeling as if we were a family already.
Yeah.
You know, you felt supported, you felt warm, you felt loved, and it was just that almost that build up on that night before, you know, so and it happened throughout the day, and then we obviously had the evening and the meal, and it was just a really lovely way. And I have to thank Jules for coming up with the idea and setting it all up. But it was just a really wonderful way of connecting. And it wasn't just a handshake connection, you know, it was a big hug. It was a big, real warm feeling. Uh, to people that, as we said, seen from afar, but never actually seen face to face.
And I love that you said that on the Saturday as well. It was like walking in, and being amongst family, or like or friends. There was certainly that, just a, a word that like Jamie introduced me to, when I was training Jamie Smart, when I was training with Jamie years ago, compersion. And it's the joy in someone else's joy, you know, experiencing joy in someone else's happiness,
Mm.
as opposed to envy or jealousy or competition or anything like that. And for me, um, that was one of the amazing things about the evening before and the event, is that it was that people were coming together, with that sense of positivity and enthusiasm and encouragement for each other.
Yeah.
But I love what you shared about, you know, you had a few things going on, not small things either,
No,
um, to be kind of like completely shutting down the PT, going back. Not you said going, like returning to work. I'd say exploring as who you are now,
yeah,
rather than who you were.
yeah.
Um, and
It
and
was
then sorry, go on.
it was definitely the first time I went to work for Amazon for 5 months. The idea was to take a year off, work for Amazon for 5 months, and then find something different. And the idea was that I went in there being the person that I wanted to be, not being Graham the PT or Graham the whatever or Graham, you know, who I wanted to be and who I wanted to be in the world. That was the idea. But initially, it was such a stigmatism on myself about being a failure that I couldn't do that, that I couldn't go into a workplace again, that I'd somehow let myself down and the people around me, and that I couldn't transform or transfer from one field to another, although I felt it. There was so many hang-ups that I created, illusions that I created in my mind. So this was a great way when I started working for Amazon. And then I ended up working for Aldi, which became even better because it allowed me to develop even further, just being on the shop floor. And between me and you, and obviously there's going to be a couple of other people, I was going to go there for 6 months. I'm still in Aldi and I do 1 to 2 hours, 1 to 2 shifts a week now on the shop floor, but I'm now involved in mental health and well-being and a liaison between management and staff on the floor. I'm still there nearly 2 years later.
Yeah.
You know, it is just the fact that I can learn so much more about myself and be more and more giving, which I hear more and more as I'm listening to Steve or, other people talk about going out there and creating something wonderful, not just for yourself, but for other people, having that commitment and dedication.
Because we don't exist in a vacuum, right? Like, do we? We exist in our interactions with others. And I love how the environment that you've chosen is consistently full of those interactions. Yeah, I love that. So, given all that, and then the day occurred, I'd love to know, kind of, 'cause obviously some people will have known more about the Book of Being before they went, will have known more about Steve, will have had perhaps some idea or expectation of what they were going to gain from the day. And to go into that with none of that almost, and you didn't say that. So if I'm putting words into your mouth, like, just let me know. I'd love to know what you did here, if anything shifted, like what you came away with that might have been different to how you showed up on, like, either the night before or the morning of the event.
Obviously, the night before, you had people talking about who the speakers were, and I spoke to Rose a little bit before, and she was involved in putting the event together with it. But really, I didn't know who was going to be there, who was going to be speaking, other than Steve. It's weird because I wear hearing aids, and there are certain people I couldn't hear, or I really found it difficult to hear what Steve said. But what I did hear really landed really heavily when he was speaking. And there might have only been 1 or 2 sentences, and I think we've mentioned this before, but it felt as if it was talking directly to me. And the same with Amy. I really couldn't tell you what she said, but I know that it came from a place of love from what I felt. So that was the two things that really stuck out about that aspect, that the words didn't really matter. This is what I was picking up on the way home. It was about where it was coming from and how we were going to direct it. And then you had Corinne do epic shit. Yeah. So that was that. And he's big and bold and he's out there and he's got this huge smile and everything. And then it was just, so they were the main things that were really have sort of driven me. Obviously, you've got everyone else. Alan was up there, and it's just, there was so much to take in. It was in a really intense day. There was so much to take in, and I'm having this sensory overload. The hearing aids weren't working. I'm sitting off, and there was all these people cheering and smiling and laughing and giving love, and I'm seeing all of these old friends who I'd seen online. But it was more the feeling of the day which impacted on me. And the one takeaway from that is I wanted to know where and how this started for Steve, for Amy. You know, where did this growing come from? Where did this being come from? So that started a different journey of looking at, right, and so the Course of Miracles book and spending a year actually going through that, learning more about that. And I got to a point where I realized it wasn't about, and I've listened to Steve again, or and aspects of that day, listening to that again, and realizing that they're not telling me to be anyone else, And something came up, and I think it's right at the top of my whiteboard. Seek not outside yourself.
Yeah, I love that.
And I've realized that the more I seek within myself, the more I find the person that I love, which was really difficult beforehand, and owning up with that, and being able to share and give more of my own self with the like a trickle, which then started to be a waterfall. It just what I said to, and I think this is a summarization, what I said to a couple of people after the event. I felt as if the past 15, 20 years building up that were just walking up a very long hill. The event was me stepping off that cliff and not worrying about falling because I knew I could slide.
Oh, I love that. I really, really love that. And what I'm hearing in what you shared, because I didn't take notes on the day. Like I was just kind of immersed in it, and going back home, we had a train journey, and I was trying to write down the lessons or the things that had struck me and things like that. But over the weekend, that wasn't, they were just words, and what really hit me was it wasn't the words, it was where they were coming from. And you spoke about love when Amy was speaking, and I got that. I was curious about that, coming from love and creating love. And um I was curious what that looked like, what that meant, how that worked. But also, when all of the people were speaking and they were acknowledging each other, and talked about judgment, like dropping the judgment and where you're listening from, um, a lot of the time. And I just sensed that that was it. It was this place of listening for the love, you know, um, non-judgment, not just with this, like in regards to the speakers and the people that you sat next to, but self. And what it really awoke in me, and this is like what I related to when you were sharing, was um this getting to know me, and who am I, and what do I think, and how do I feel, and what do I believe in regards to this, and who do I want to be in the world. I had no concept for that. um I My radar wasn't in that direction
Yeah.
before, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this makes sense. Like, it makes sense to explore me. And so I stopped ignoring and fighting that. And
Mm,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. There was one thing that, and this is it's whatever's said, but how we hear it, isn't it? You know, what someone says, you know, Steve being up there, Amy, whomever it was up there. It's about what we hear from it. I'm going to say Steve was on a rant at a couple of points on the thing about being judgmental, you know. And I realized that whenever I was being judgmental, and this probably it was for the first time, whenever I was being judgmental about other people, it's easy for them, you know, that type of stuff. Why the hell did they win? You know, they're spending more, whatever it may be, was, you know, that's I really was being judgmental about myself.
Yeah.
That it all was internally based. It was all about a comparison and, you know, being the thief of joy. But that whole judgment of life was me judging myself. And as I started, it was difficult. Still is difficult. Still crops up every now and then. But as I start to drop that, and I'm less judgmental about myself, I can see that I'm less judgmental about others. And in turn, it feels as if they're less judgmental about me. It feels as if that dropping that judgmentalness removes the barrier from actually getting a better connection with people.
Yeah, I love that because you're meeting them where they are and where you are, rather than where you think you are.
Yeah, yeah. And that happens too often, doesn't it? And too easy to do. Yeah.
I oh, I'm kind of feeling like goosebumps just reflecting on this a little bit. We haven't got long left,
Right.
so h- like if you could give like a brief synopsis or just a glimpse of what that's opened up for you, you know, since how things look now. Like, yeah.
Brief synopsis is it took a while, probably took just, it was April, wasn't it? It was a few months later, it might have been a year later, I can't remember. And then something cropped up about doing epic shit. I think we were in the group and something came up about doing epic shit. And I'd seen all of these people doing epic shit. Well, who can I be to do epic shit? Shit. All right, and okay, so I think it was, yeah, it must have been last April, around about that time. I reached out to 18 speakers from around the world, right? Ankush included, was busy at that time, but 18 really good speakers from around the world. Matt was there, you know, Michael Ford, loads of really wonderful speakers and powerful men, all men. And I thought, right, I'm gonna create a men's mastery summit. Now it took 2 weeks. It was like conception. Jules said we were having a conversation. She said, well, why didn't you do it for men? And the first thing that I couldn't do that. And within a fortnight, everyone's saying, "Oh, you need longer. You need 3 months. You need 6 months to prepare." But literally within a fortnight, I had 18 speakers and 180 delegates, people online in Facebook, over a 4-day, 5-day period, listening to Billy Mann, Matt, uh, Jamie Smart, you know, some
Yeah.
wonderful speakers talking about men, supporting, nourishing, empowering men. We've got about 85, 185. It's a free group. We'll put the link in it, and at the end, you're more than welcome to come and join. Free men's group, and it was just that happened because, and it would never have happened. I'd have made so many reasons for not happening. So that happened as because of London. It really did. And now I'm slowly building up a men's coaching practice. You know, it just slowly building it up, putting on Facebook, you know, social media, reaching out to people, connecting with people, and just being helping people who I was as well as people who are still me, no matter where they are in life. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a CEO who's doubting yourself within a relationship, or you're a young man who's got no idea of who he is in today's society. So that is a direct correlation of what happened at London. Beforehand, I didn't know who it was. It was just where now I know that, Graham Turner, men's coach. I've been through the shit, so I can help you to get through. JP Morgan was talking about, what makes a transformative coach, and it was the fact that, well, my life is a testament to me being a transformative coach. From
Yeah.
where I am to where I am now, it's vastly different, and that is that's what's happened because of London.
I'm reminded, and I'm seeing this everywhere at the moment, of the butterfly effect, because I don't know all the speakers you had on there, but the ones that you've mentioned, and just their stories and their impact alone, and your story as well, Graham, like, to share that to almost 200 people, and for them to get a glimpse of that and take a bit of that into their lives is I'm just feeling really excited at the things that we can create and the ripples that they have when we stop getting in our own